Okay, I'm working on trying to get my volume fixed. There we go. Now you can hear me. Okay. All right. So today we're going to talk about X and Y intercepts. We've been talking about the Y intercept, and we've kind of talked about X intercepts in reference to being it being called the zeros or the roots. We're going to talk about now how to use the X and Y intercepts to graph. Okay. So it says the point at which the line intersects the x-axis is called the x-intercept, which is going to be this point here. This is the x-intercept. The point where the line intersects the y-axis, no y-intercept, so that's going to be this point here, which we've talked about with slope-intercept form. Okay, so an example, identify the x and y intercepts of the graph shown to the right. So my x-intercept is going to be an ordered pair. This ordered pair right here is going to be, it's located at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is 8 on the x-axis, and it doesn't go up or down any, so it's at 0 on the y-axis. So there's my x-intercept. The y-intercept is up here, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the y-axis, but it's at 0 on the x-axis because it's on the actual y-axis. So this is 0, 8. All right. Notice the x-intercept is always going to be some number, 0. The 0 is in the y spot. For the y-intercept, it is 0, some number. The 0 is in the x spot. Just an observation to help you to remember how the ordered pair should be written. Next, we're finding the intercepts algebraically. This was from a graph. Now if we're given the equation. So to find the x-intercept of an equation, okay, we're going to plug in 0 for y, because the 0 is in the y spot. Remember, this is x, y. So I'm going to plug in 0 for y and solve for x, because right now I know that the y is equal to 0. So I can substitute in 0 for y. For the y-intercept, we do the opposite. We're going to plug in 0 for x because the 0 is in the x spot. And we have that x equals 0 in this instance. And then we solve for y. All right, so let's go ahead and do that for this example. Find the x and y intercept of the equation for y equals 3x plus 6. So I'm going to plug in for the x-intercept. I'm going to have 0 equals 3x plus 6, and now I solve. So I subtract 6, and I have 3x. Negative 6 equals 3x. Divide by 3, and we have negative 2 equals x. So therefore, the x-intercept is going to be negative 2, 0. For the y-intercept, and yes, we know when it's in this equation to automatically pull it out, we have to show mathematically how this works. So we're going to plug in 0 for x. So I'm going to have y equals 3 times 0 plus 6, and we end up with y equals 0 plus 6, which is y equals 6. So therefore, my y-intercept is 0, 6. And let's look at number 3 real quick, because we've worked one example together. Now let's jump down and kind of pull one in that's got fractions. So I'm going to follow this. I'm finding the x and y-intercept. So I'm going to have two scenarios. Okay, so I'm going to have the x-intercept, which is where I plug in a 0 for y. So I'm going to have 0 equals negative 4/3 x plus 2. So I'm going to subtract 2. And we have negative 2 equals negative 4/3 x. Now, with this, remember, I'm multiplying by a fraction. So to cancel that multiplication, I have to divide by a fraction, or think of it as multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply by negative 3/4 on both sides. And yes, I can move that negative between the top and the bottom. It just cannot be in both the numerator and the denominator. These cancel. And over here, I end up with positive 6/4 equals x, which I always have to simplify. So that's going to simplify to 3/2. So that means my x-intercept is going to be, open parentheses, 3/2 comma 0, close parentheses. Excuse me. And then the y-intercept, plug in. So I'm going to have y equals negative 4/3 times 3. And I plug in 0 for x. And we solve. So this is going to give me y equals 2. So my y-intercept is 0, comma 2, because anything times 0 is 0, and then 0 plus 2 is 0. And moving right along to the back of the page. Let's move on to now when we want to graph. Okay, so I'm going to look at number 7. So we have find the x and y-intercept of each equation. So I have to find that first. Let me turn this off. Sorry about that, guys. So I have to find the x and y-intercepts first. And a little trick in helping you to understand this when it's kind of so simple like this is to help you mentally think is I'm plugging in, remember, for the x-intercept. This is number 7. The x-intercept, I'm plugging in 0 for y. So I have, I can do this right here. I'm going to change this a little bit. There's the x-intercept. So I'm going to have 0. X plus 0 equals 3. So that's going to give me x equals 3. So I plug in 0 for y, and I end up with x equals 3. Then for the y-intercept, I'm plugging in 0 for x. So that means that goes away. So 0 plus y equals 3. So that gives me y equals 3. And now I graph those two. So I'm going to have the x at 3, the y at 3. And remember, all I have to have is 2 points to draw a graph. So now I take my handy dandy ruler and I connect my dots. And if you want to, you can figure out the slope and continue your graph. But with a ruler, you just now connect the dots and you make your graph go all the way through. Okay, jumping down, we want to try. Let's do number 9. So looking at number 9, I'm now got to find my x and y-intercept. So for the x-intercept, remember, that means I'm plugging in a 0 for y. So that means when I plug in 0 for y, this goes away. And I'm left with 9x equals 45. Because I'm plugging in the 0 for y. If you need to add that step in there of 9x minus 15 times 0 equals 45, then you write it. You do what your brain needs to do. So now I divide by 9, and I get that x equals 5. So I'm going to plot that point, x equals 5. And now I find the y-intercept, which is where I plug in 0 for x. Now, what I've got to remember is that's a negative. So this is going to give me, so I'm going to have 9 times 0 minus 15y equals 45, which I can take straight to negative 15y if I just kind of think about it this way, where I'm covering up the 9x because that means it's gone. So now I have negative 15y equals 45. I divide by negative 15, and I get that y equals negative 3. So I have 1, 2, 3, plot my point, and now I play connect the dots. And we draw our graph to go through the entire coordinate plane. Okay, your assignment is to finish the notes and the classwork homework. Have a great day.